Hi, I'm Chef Raphael and welcome to the show. Now, today's video, I'm going to show you how to cook bacon. Now, I have collar bacon from Farmer's Choice, but the whole point of this video is, first of all, I'll start with how do you store bacon. You know, you bought a pack like this. You're not going to cook all of it. How do you store it? I'll also show you now the best way to cook it and how you know it's cooked. It's really simple, but I hope you learn something new. Let's get cooking. So, bacon is basically, traditionally bacon is made from pork, but nowadays we have other variations of bacon, either from turkey bacon or beef bacon, which I think is called bacon. Different varieties of bacon, but today I'm actually talking about the pork bacon, the original one. Now here, this one is the collar bacon. Now there's different types of bacon, and it's basically named after the part where it's cut from. Like this one is from the collar. The collar is basically the front leg of the pig carcass. So the meat has been cured. Now bacon, this is how bacon is made. It's cured. Basically, it's soaked like in brine of salty water, soaked, and then it's also hung and smoked. That whole process, I don't want to get very technical, but basically it's like cured, but not cooked. So, and the smoke, it has a smoke taste because it's actually smoked as it's after the curing process, and it gives it that unique flavor. Now, there are so many different ways, different people make it differently in terms of the intensity of the smoke, but that's up to you, whichever you like. But the Farmer's Choice ones have that consistent taste and look. Now, again, this is the collar bacon. We have back bacon, tricky bacon, which is I think my favorite because it has layers of fat and meat. It's actually used from the loin, now from the like the spare ribs part of the pork. So different types. Some have the rind. The rind one, the rind is actually the hard part when you bite into a bacon and you find it a little bit hard or chewy, and that's basically the skin, and that usually would come from a bacon that is cut from the leg of the pork. Now, whichever you choose, the whole point is look at it. Like this one, you can see this is not fatty. It doesn't have a lot of fat. The rind, some of them actually may be labeled rindless, so it's dependent. When you're buying, they actually even have different prices, so check which one you fits your pocket. Depends also what you're using it for. Are you cooking it? Do you want to cook it for breakfast? Because there are so many ways you can use bacon. Bacon can also be used in pasta. I have done pasta dishes, and it's perfect. So it will act as the meat for, let's say, that pasta dish or a snack. But in this video, I'll actually show you how to do it for breakfast. And the first thing, when you get your pack, make sure first of all, when you're buying it, they're usually sold refrigerated, and it actually says here, there's a part that it says keep refrigerated below 2 degrees or frozen at minus 18 degrees. So it's either in the fridge or frozen. Now, in case you buy it frozen, all you need to do, especially if it's like this, you defrost the whole pack. This is vacuum sealed. So what I would say is, first of all, cut it open. When you cut it open, the vacuum packing will, it's a good idea if you can open the whole pack. Now, this makes it easier for use next time. So it's basically a big, from the big chunk of meat, what they usually do now is slice to get the bacon. Now I like this one because this is more meaty in terms of, and it doesn't have the rind, so it's not gonna be tough. So this can be perfect for like a when you're serving 1 piece or 2 pieces. So I'll put this aside because I'll actually cook that one and maybe another one, maybe 2 slices like that. I'll show you how to cook it. So everyone, whoever makes bacon, they all make it differently. Even the thickness will matter. But I think what matters is the smell. How smoky is it? So usually for farmers choice bacon, my experience with it over the years is that it has a consistent flavor in terms of the smoke. So the first thing when you want to do now, if this is what you're going to cook, it's a good idea to separate your bacon and maybe pack it into packs that you'll be able to cook at once. If it's 2 slices each, let's say if you have a big family, you can decide to pack like 4 pieces, and these 4 pieces, because they are big, you can actually cut them into smaller pieces. And bottom line, what I just want to say is that whatever you're not going to use, either place it in a plastic container like this. You can either arrange it separately, like in two small containers, or you discard this, because the moment you open the pack, what will happen is that air will get into the bacon and it will tend to dry it, because there's no way you can seal this back. The best way is to put in a container that you can cover. If you have a lot, another way you can do it, the best way you can do this is to portion the bacon into batches that you cook once. You can either put it in the fridge or in the freezer. When you put it in the fridge, it will not last as long, especially when it's opened from the pack. But when it's in the freezer, it will last as long as, very long basically, so long as it's frozen. The thing is, when you defrost it, you just have to cook the whole of it. And that's why when you pack it, just make sure you pack it in batches that you cook once. So this one will go into the freezer, into the fridge after I cover it, and then I'll show you how to cook this one. So when it comes to cooking bacon, again, check the size of the bacon itself, because that will actually determine how many can fit in your pan. Usually, like this one looks big, but when you start cooking it, it will shrink and curl up. So it depends on the size of your pan. But you can always cook it in batches as well if it's a lot, you're cooking a lot. The most important thing you need to have, in my opinion, is to have a hot pan, and then I'll add a little bit of oil, just a small amount, like a few drops of oil. And the whole point, it does not apply to all bacon. It depends on the type of bacon you have, because this one that I have, the one that I have here, it doesn't have a lot of fat in it. That's why I'm adding a little bit of oil. If you are using something like the streaky bacon, which has layers of fat and meat, that one you can actually skip the oil part and just put it on a hot pan and let it start cooking, and the oil will render and then it will cook with its own oil. And that's also a way of reducing the amount of the fat on the bacon. So again, a very small amount of oil. Pan is hot. So the oil will help it not to stick. So what will happen is that the meat, as it starts cooking, and because it's a thin layer, by the way, it does not take a long time to cook. All we need to do is wait for it to brown on the first side. And then the other thing about bacon, because it's salty, and it's salty because, remember I said when we started, is that it's soaked in brine, which is basically a salt solution. So that salt soaks into the bacon, which is like a curing process. It's a form of preservation of the meat, but it also gives it flavor. So because I've put a little bit of oil, at least on the pan, it will not stick. If it had its own fat, what will happen is that the bacon will just the bacon will start cooking with its own fat. And basically you want it to be golden brown on the first side, before you turn it to the second side. Now, because mine is a little bit dry, I'm actually going to add a little bit more oil on top of this side, the other side, so that when I turn it, to continue cooking. So again, the idea is to cook it on the first side. It won't take long. And it's because it's a thin layer of meat, it doesn't take long for the heat to penetrate and to make it fully cooked. So again, depending on the bacon, because mine, this is a little bit dry, so it's tending to dry as it cooks. So I'm adding a little bit oil as I continue, because you also want some oil to make the bacon not burn. If you cook it without oil, if it doesn't have oil and the bacon does not have fat and you don't add oil, what will happen is that the bacon will actually burn. So the good thing about bacon, whenever you're cooking it, now depending on which type of bacon that you have, even if it breaks apart like it has right now, it's fine, because what will happen is that you're still gonna eat it, it's still gonna be enjoyable. And sometimes that rustic look is okay, but all this is determined by the cut of where the bacon is cut from. So it's ready. It's actually taken about 3 minutes, because I'm using high heat. And you know it's cooked when it's golden brown, or basically it's cooked to your liking. It's a good idea to leave it at golden brown. Don't leave it a little bit pink, at least for flavor. And if you want it a little bit more crispy, just leave it on a lower heat for a longer time. It will be crispy as it continues cooking. So as simple as that. Now I'll show you how to serve it. So I've already set up a plate with some mushrooms, some toast, some grilled tomato. Of course, you can also add egg. This, assuming this is for breakfast. Just place the bacon. Now, when it's cooked, now some sides, depending on how, if you are touching the surface of the pan, may not be as brown. But if you want that to be brown, just make sure that it's touching the pan on that side. And basically all you need to do is make sure that both sides are golden brown. Now what I like about this one, it's actually meaty, because it has a slightly thick layer of when it was being sliced, and it has a nice meaty texture when you're eating it. Now again, I'm emphasizing on this, it's all dependent on which part of the pork carcass the bacon is from. If you have the beef one or the turkey one, same thing, but the process is basically curing it in brine and then smoking it to give it that nice smoky flavor. And now this looks delicious, smells nice.